I am going to ring up my dude Nick, because me and Nick, we've had an ongoing disagreement, and I want to talk to Nick about this disagreement tonight. And it's related to the Green Party. So I figured you guys would want to be. What is up with my? Why don't I have video? There's video. I have video now. Great. All right. Me and Nick have had an ongoing. We like each other generally. Hang on, let me put you up on the screen. We get along on a lot of things. We agree on a lot of things. But one of the things that we really just disagree on is the Green Party. And so I'm always shoving my opinion down you guys' throat about the Green Party. It's only fair for me to bring somebody on who has not only the wherewithal, but the exact opposite opinion in many ways, so we can hash it out. Nick, what's going on, man?
I'm good. Good.
All right. So, do you want to start, or do I'll let you start, man. Tell me about how you disagree with me on a lot of the things I say about the Green Party.
Okay. I think you're confusing, or you're kind of putting two things together. Number one, like support or being a member of a party does not mean you have to drink the party's Kool-Aid, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that doesn't mean you have to turn your blinders to their mistakes. That doesn't mean you have to co-sign on everything that they do. In general, a party is really just a tool for lazy political analysis. So we have parties so we can easily identify, whatever that party's brand is with our politics. It's just
Mm-hmm.
an easy tool that makes it easy for people to discern the difference between politicians, you know, without really having to do research or really look very, very deeply into that. Your hardcore supporters don't need that because they're going to do that research, but the general populace just doesn't have that. And
Okay.
so that's really the purpose of parties. But my point is that regardless of if your priorities are to take over the Democratic Party, or if your priorities are to do something outside the Democratic Party or to build a movement, whatever your priority is,
Mm-hmm.
I personally believe that going, without creating some type of competition for what is considered left or the left wing ideology, you can't really move forward. I feel
Okay.
like the Green Party is a good vehicle that will help us actually have more corrective ability over the Democratic Party if we just have a viable option and a place to go when they continue their abuse.
Okay. So
And to
you're.
that
Mhm.
end,
Go
it's
ahead.
not even about a candidate. It's about building up the backup plan that we desperately need to move forward for the long term.
And so, from my perspective, and I'll just say, with the Green Party, I've, you're here to speak, not to speak positively, but you have positive thoughts about the Green Party. I've never been impressed with the Green Party, their organizing ability. I've never been impressed with their approach to how they do politics as an outside force, as an outside entity. I've never really been impressed with their PR machine, and their ability to leverage new media. Right. Their Jill Stein became the nominee, and to what fanfare, right? To what great announcement. You'd have to, we people like you and I, we live in and exist in this world like 24 hours a day. And somebody had to send me an update to say, oh, did you know Jill Stein was the nominee? I'm like, listen, seriously, I'm in your space. I follow you guys on Twitter, and I'm not getting this. They're not leveraging new technology to me. And so for me, it's a practical matter as well as a philosophical matter. Philosophically, I think that the Green Party has the potential of being just as problematic as the Democratic Party. We just believe in them because they are more progressive on some key issues, particularly foreign policy and economic policy. We feel like, okay, they represent something better, but I feel like that is the problem right there in and of itself, that we're putting our hope and our trust and our belief into a party when a party is the problem right now. And I think that too many people have this fantasy view of all we have to do is get the Green Party. No, just getting power to the Green Party would be just as problematic as all the power the Democratic Party has. All we have to do is mobilize the people who are too lazy to do that political analysis that you said in the first place. It's so much more difficult than just trusting a party. And I really take I get taken aback by the fact that people are dreaming about the Green Party being the solution instead of them seeing that we as individuals are the solution, not a party.
Well, number one, I would say that any power structure has the potential to corrupt itself. However, depending on how democratic the organization is in the first place, it's a lot more difficult to end up with a result similar to the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party has not really been a democratic organization.
Mm-hmm.
Like the Green Party grew as an outgrowth separate in America from the Democratic Party. They
Mm-hmm.
left, they're outside of that, and they structured it in such a way that it's actually a highly democratic organization.
Mm-hmm.
So it will be very, very difficult for it to turn into something like the Democratic Party without some sort of democratic mechanism working in their favor. And if that's the way it happens, that's democracy. You win some and you lose some, but it's not like where you have two or three individuals come in, they get hooked up with big money and they're able to turn the party and we end up in the exact same situation. I think the Democratic Party and the Green Party are two fundamentally different parties to that regard. Back to your comment where you said that they're a little bit better on each individual issue, I would argue that if you look at their platform and their policy initiatives, pretty much they really don't leave many stones unturned. Maybe they're not using the proper language. Maybe they can work on their outreach. Maybe they can work on, a million other things. But I'm gonna be honest with you. If you just look at their policies, the policies that we're pushing for, that we're fighting for, they're there.
Mm-hmm.
And if they're there, we should be weaponizing it and utilizing it.
That's the
There's no
thing.
reason for us to hold back
Yeah.
on why we're not using that.
Right. There's no doubt, right? I can't say that I agree 100% with their platform, but it's not there for us to agree with 100%, right? So there's no expectation that we should agree with the party platform 100%. So there are some things about the Green Party platform that we can discuss later. I agree that overall the policies are there, but what good are the policies if you don't have the mobilizing capacity? What good are the policies if you don't have the outreach capacity? I mean, let's if every single barbershop in America that has people full that are angry at the system and they know the problem of the system, and the Green Party probably has some of the solutions that barbershop wants to hear. The damn Green Party should be in the community so deep that they would actually mobilize the forces of that 40, what percentage? It's almost like 60% of the people who do not vote. They could already be out there mobilizing. And don't get me wrong, I know in certain neighborhoods, there's a neighborhood here in Massachusetts that is like I think 70% Green Party. So they are in certain areas like that. But in terms of the outreach that's necessary to make them viable, it's not there. It's not there. And that to me is problematic when we have this ideal. It's almost like a utopia. It's like we treat the Green Party like a utopian idea that's really not attainable because it's the infrastructure and the outreach and the boots on the ground, even from an organization level, it's just not there. And yes, they are new. They're pretty new. They're new. And we should, relatively new. Go ahead.
Until somebody's willing to push too far, to risk pushing too far, they never really know how far you can push, right? So we can all sit around and talk about what's possible and all that and limit our goals based on what we think is possible, but everything is impossible until you start doing it.
Mm-hmm.
You have to get out there and start doing it, and that's when something actually becomes possible. So for all the Green Party's faults, it is a highly democratic organization. If you have a problem with it, if there's something you don't like but they're there on the policy for you, join up. Get in there. You can actually make a difference in this party because it does not exist in the same way the Democratic Party exists today. You can actually change that party. It's not a top-down organization where you can have a power structure and a money structure and somebody can just come in and it doesn't matter what the people at the bottom say because it's all controlled from the top. That's what the Democratic Party is right now. You can still change that too, but you'll need outside help, and that outside help is the Green Party, I believe, or some movement or something outside that
So
coalesces into some kind of electoral power,
yeah, now see that.
whether it's utilizing the Green Party or not. But
So that
guess
wait,
what?
go
If you
ahead.
do that, though, wait.
Hmm.
If you do that, you would have to somehow build infrastructure to get on ballot initiatives for all those states, and you'd be
No,
starting from scratch.
no. I tell you why. I tell you why. That the second to last thing you said, I agree with. Right. The last thing you said, I don't agree with because it really is about organizing an electoral force. Right. The ability to move people in and out of parties at will, right? Because I don't believe that we should ever again give loyalty to the Democratic Party like we have over the last 40, 50, 60 years, right? Let me
And
put
I'm
that
not
out there first.
advocating for that.
Right. I
I'm
also
not
don't
advocating for
believe
giving any party that kind of
Right.
loyalty.
I don't believe that we should switch that loyalty over to the Green Party either. I believe that progressives need to be a separate movement of like-minded people with enough organization. Not, and I'm not talking about top-down organization, but enough organization where we have the capacity to swing a party the way that we want it to go. Because think of it this way, if all we do is align ourselves with the party, then we can't hold the people in office accountable if they're not a part of our party, right? The way we got the gains that we got, like for example, I used this week the Environmental Protection Agency. That's because the progressive movement was able to put pressure on Richard Nixon, a Republican president. And so I think that we should not swing our weight over to the Green Party any more than we should give our weight to the Democratic Party. I think we need to be free agents. The progressive movement should be free agents and able to leverage new media enough to move people. And I don't think that we should just give that loyalty. Now, but in terms of the Green Party, I'll let you get the last word. In terms of the Green Party, I feel that, yes, I'm sorry. I just have the expectation that at some point, at some level, you should have the wherewithal or enough input from the hundreds of thousands of people who are affiliated with you to have a competitive edge. There's some talent there already. That's what I'm saying. There's some talent there already. I just don't see it being leveraged in the way. I don't think they should be waiting on somebody like Ben Dixon to come and show them how to build a platform for their opinions to be heard on a regular basis, right? Or to build their social media presence so for them to have an impact. I think they have that talent there already. I honestly feel like in many ways they're structuring themselves too much like a traditional political party and using traditional political means and not being that guerrilla movement coming from the outside. So for me, it's just like, I see what you guys are trying to do policy wise, but I don't see how you're ever going to accomplish it doing the same thing that other parties have done for many, many years. And if they're waiting on new blood, I mean, you're there. Why haven't you given them all these great ideas?
Well, number one, I exist outside of a political party per se. However, I think it's an important conversation to be had, and that I see that our role here is really to expand ideas and not constrain them to one specific idea.
Hmm.
The problem I have with being a movement and not being held to, and not really having an electoral arm per se. You have to have an electoral arm. That's how things get done. And you can speak about Richard Nixon, but what happened after Nixon? What happened after that?
I mean, you
Like,
have years of, yeah.
we won some concessions, and then what happened?
Well, that you
It
do
went
know why
nowhere.
though, right? Because it was a very concerted effort to eviscerate the power of the progressive movement, right? I mean, everything from, well, yes, the progressive movement began dying out very intentionally so. So we did not have the political capital to put pressure on anybody for the last 50 years, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah, but remember, there's multiple institutions that are involved in this. It was the unions that were involved
Yep,
at that time.
they got
It was
gutted. Hmm.
also it was also our academic professions. All the academic professions were involved, giving people the language, giving people the policy initiatives and the ideas from which they can arm stuff. The media was involved in it. All of those things are gone. They are not here. Like, the only thing we have right now is alternative media. And you know what? To be honest with you, I see Jill Stein and mentions of the Green Party all the time on the alternative media that I actually get my information from.
Hmm.
However, platforms like yours and other platforms don't really allow discussion of the Green Party or what they're trying to do.
Man,
Most people really don't
you
even
about
know.
to get a nigga, please. I talk about the Green Party all the time. I let you come on here and talk
Yeah,
about the
you don't
Green
have much
Party,
positive to
man.
say about it.
I let you
You don't
come here.
have much positive to say
I
about
don't have much positive to say about
it.
anything.
I'm not
To
a
be honest with you, I'm
I'm
just
not a representative of the
right,
Green Party. What
right,
I'm doing is merely opening everybody to the idea of the potential that
and and
that can be for us.
and hang on. I still have a standing offer to Jill Stein to come on the show. I've had an offer out to Jill Stein to come to the show before she was the actual nominee. So it's not as though I have not asked them, but I guess maybe they don't want to come on because I don't speak positively of them. I do foster the conversation. My job is to help people to think, not only to think, but also try to think the way I think. But anyway, I'm here, and this conversation has been had here for a very long time. I would say if the show is a year and a half old, we've been talking about the Green Party at least for 8 months of that, right? And I've allowed you come on. Now there are other outlets. I agree with you. There are other alternative media outlets that you have never heard about the Green Party on. But I can't. On my show, I can't tell a line and not analyze that line. And when I see a problem with it, I have to call it out. That's just my job. So if it comes off negatively about the Green Party, it's because I see some flaws.
I understand perfectly well.
Yeah.
But I mean, the idea that they're not getting anywhere or they're not impressing you with their outreach, is a reason why you can't support or even try to leverage them at all. It just makes no sense to me because to be honest, for all their faults, like they still hold an incredible potential. I mean, anything you don't like about it, it can easily be changed. You can get in there. And you're saying they shouldn't be waiting on somebody to come in and build this. Well, you shouldn't be waiting for somebody to build that for you so you can come in and take advantage of it either. So, I mean, at some point, somebody's got to nut up and do something and stop sitting around waiting on something.
So when you going to do it?
Me?
Yeah.
Me? You know what? I'm going to my first Green Party meeting on Monday to see what my local chapter is talking about. So
there we go.
Just so everybody will know that, like, I don't just say this nonsense. I really do actually participate in it. I haven't been to a Green Party meeting in at least 2 or 3 years. I remember when I first saw Jill Stein on Democracy Now! A long time ago. I was like, okay, let me just go see what they're talking about. But at that time, I still believe that the problem with the Democratic Party was that they didn't believe in a progressive person can win. But now I see that they're openly aggressive and hostile towards the very idea of progressivism.
Yeah, absolutely.
In a situation like that, you only have one real corrective. Basically, they're using their monopoly on the left to exploit and maintain political power. The only way you can change that is by having a viable alternative. You can talk about movements, but the Republicans, they're not going to cater to you no matter what. Your only hope is somebody who has an investment in your ideology.
That's not necessarily true. I get the sentiment of what you're saying, but that I can't agree with that totally because political power, political capital, and the ability to move troops and boots on the ground has a lot of impact on decisions that are made. But I get your bigger picture. But back to what you're saying in terms of the potential of the Green Party, I hear you. I get it. But my number one problem is the same problem I have with progressives, right? We show up we show up big time for presidential elections. And if you're showing up in time for elections, you're already too late. And I can say this, and I'm definitely saying this about the Bernie Sanders crowd, right? This is the same exact problem that plagues progressives across the board, is that we wait too late and we are not fully infiltrating the communities that we need to infiltrate on January 1st of 2017, right? We need to be planning in January 1st, 2017. And to be honest with you, you never hear from a progressive, you never hear from national progressive movements. I hear more from the local community progressive movement that's trying to get somebody out of office over a particular issue. I hear more on, Boston, some local movements here in Boston. I hear a lot of local movements, but I don't even see like national progressives coming and supporting the local movements that really, if you got on the side of these local movements, that local movement would get on the side of you when it came time for a national election. And I just don't see that type of commitment to the year-round, non-election year local movement politics that's necessary to remind people like I don't want to use I don't have a better example than Black Lives Matter, but remind movements locally like Black Lives Matter that they're actually a progressive movement, right? But you don't really see that. And I know Black Lives Matter probably wasn't the best example, but you get what I'm saying. And to me, as soon I'll know who's serious, not only from the Green Party, but from the Bernie Sanders crowd, from everyone else. I'll know who's serious on January after the inauguration day. After inauguration, whoever shows up, whichever party shows up, whichever movement shows up, and is planning for the next 8 years, that's how I'll know who's serious. And if it's the Green Party, then so be it. But you know, my job, Nick, is to tell the truth as I see it, and your job, I'm sure, is very much similar. I'll let you get the last word, and I'm going to try to catch this train.
Okay. The last thing I was going to say about that is, you know, outreach is great, but the progressive movements are there. They're just siloed. In Houston, Texas, they have a protest for police violence in Houston. It's very, very bad. Been bad for years. They have a protest on Tuesdays. They go down to City Hall and they protest all the time. They're always there. The Green Party is involved with that protest. They are. Even what's that? A Nation of Islam dude is there. He always comes down and does his thing out there too. So,
brother, yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Elijah Muhammad.
No, not Elijah Muhammad.
He also.
Elijah Muhammad's not there. You're talking about the guy who was in. Yo, go ahead.
They all share the. He's on the radio here, KPFT. He usually goes down, and he's usually down for those type of protests. And he's usually there, and he has a radio show on KPFT. I know in California, the Pacific Radio Network, the Progressive Network that runs all through the United States, they're usually involved in a lot of movements and things of that nature. But there's movements everywhere. They're just they're not connected. And they're not connected because they're not fighting for a centralized issue that reaches across all movements. Everybody's so busy looking at their one specific issue, they don't come together around issues that happens to them all. And that's why I think, you know, one of the biggest things about movement creation and like growing a coalition is about coming on that common ground and meeting people where they are. And economic inequality is where everybody is, because it's the root of so many problems. And if you just got together and fought for that, you can address a lot of other things.
Well, you see, but that's the problem.
You know,
that's a problem, though. I know I said I was going to let you get the last word, but I lied. You can still get the last word, but we got to unpack that, because the problem is that not every movement that is a progressive movement is quite ready to focus on economic inequality. And when people come in and say we need to change your focus and focus on economic inequality, then obviously that movement is going to push back and say, no, we're focusing on what we focused on. What has to happen, in my opinion, is from the top down. The top has to be willing to say, what is it that you're fighting for? Okay, I see some commonalities on what we're fighting for, but I'm not going to push economic inequality on you just now. I'm going to stand in solidarity on what you're fighting for, no questions asked, because what you're fighting for is progressive. No, you said that we all need to rally behind economic inequality.
No, I'm saying that is the issue, but we have to move to where people are. That is exactly what I said. We have to meet people where they are, and we have to find an issue that meets across all of our issues.
But then you said that there should be economic.
I'm not saying I changed the focus. No, I'm not saying I changed the focus of it. I'm not saying I've changed the focus of the group.
Okay.
What I'm saying is you make a coalition with those people. Look, we're going to be there for you on this issue if you're here for us on this issue. It has to be a transaction. And if they're not willing to do with that transaction, that's fine. The offer was made. That's all we really have to. That's all we really have to do. It's just a simple business transaction.
Okay, I'm sorry. I had to find it. Quanell X. I'm like freaking me out. What was his name? Listen, we're not gonna solve it tonight, but I wanted to give you a chance to share your thoughts. I'm sure there are more people in my audience that agrees with you on the Green Party than agrees with me. So that's why I wanted to bring you on, because it's not all about what I think. My audience is a lot of them have shifted from Bernie or bust to Jill. You know, it was like Bernie or Jill, and that's where they are now. So the standing invitation to Jill Stein to come on and talk on the show about her presidency, her campaign for president. Listen, even if I disagree with you, you know I'm going to give you a fair shake to present your platform in the most positive light until you say something that's just completely an anathema to my existence. Like, a conservative would. But I don't think that would ever happen with somebody like Jill Stein. Respect her, like her. I just think that, I think what I think. I've already said it. Nick, tell everybody how to get up with you.
You guys already know Slick Nick X on Twitter, and I'm also in the Progressive Army group on Facebook.
Awesome. Nick, it has been a pleasure. We got to get your show up and running again, man. When's your next episode?
I'm supposed to be having James K. Galbraith come on, but he's on vacation.
Okay.
So he'll be back, I think, the week after next, and then I've been having problems with my tooth. So that's been pretty fun. But actually, we're going to start getting that back on track again and get it up and running.
All right. We want to see it up and running. People love to hear what you have to say. I love hearing what you have to say. That's why you're part of the Progressive Army. Nick, you have a great night, man. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
My pleasure.